Hi, my name is Mike Britton, and I'm running for Rowlett City Council, Place 4. We've lived here almost 4 years. We moved over here in October of 2018, so coming up on this coming October will be 4 years. But really, our relationship with Rowlett kind of goes back further than that because I've got a daughter and a son-in-law and grandkids, especially grandkids. We've probably been coming over here in and out of Rowlett for probably about 8 years. Well, let me answer that by saying, well before we moved to Rowlett, we'd had a relationship with this community coming in over here, and especially after the tornado, we came over here mainly to see what we could do. It wasn't our church at the time; it was our daughter and son-in-law's church. I know they were active in trying to set up some relief, so we looked to see what we could do to help in and out, and we were just really struck with just the magnitude of how the whole city came together. You had church people, you had non-church people, you had people from all walks of life in the community coming together as one community and trying to do what they could to alleviate the pain, the suffering, and the misery that was caused by the storm. And at that time, we were already thinking about downsizing. We'd lived in Allen at the time, and we really kind of fell in love with this community, mainly how they came together in a very uh, much an adversarial type of way that was caused by this storm. So that's really kind of our first love of Rowlett. And so when we did actually downsize and move over in 2018, we didn't just want to move here and become just a citizen. We wanted to get involved. We wanted to be engaged. And one of the first things I did is I wanted to learn more about the city. So I enrolled in the Rowlett Citizens Academy. I wanted to get a real good feel for how the city operated. That was a very good, even if it was a 30,000-foot level, gave me a real good view of all the various departments, not only how they worked, but how they worked together. And so I was really prepared to launch into the next phase, find a board or commission or whatever. And then the pandemic struck and kind of threw a wrench into that. And then my job changed significantly where I was out of town almost every week, all week, going to different parts in South Texas and doing training. So I got involved in the best way I could. I got involved in my church. We were not just doing things inside the church, but we were doing things outside the walls of the church. We were actively engaged in some of the after-school programs in Coyle and Pearson. And then within the last year or so, I became involved in an organization called Men of Honor. And it's also Men of Honor and Ladies of Honor, but I'm particularly working with the Men of Honor in Rowlett High School. And that's an after-school thing where we're coming alongside young men and we're trying to teach, we're trying to mentor to these guys what being a real man is all about. So that's really my big involvement that I've done. In a previous life as a Marine, I found a real desire and love to be able to help veterans. We've got a lot of different groups in and around the city and other places I've been where I want to pour myself into making sure veterans are treated the way they should be treated, especially those who are dealing with issues, whether it's from Iraq or Afghanistan. I'm involved in an organization called 22 a Day. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's trying to help reach out so that veterans are not committing suicide at the rate they're doing today. So those are some of the things I'm involved in, and I'm kind of proud of that. So. Deep down, I have a real desire. I want to see this city move forward in a very positive way. I firmly believe that every facet of our city government organization should have as their number one priority that they're doing things for the benefit and to serve the community, and specifically the citizens. Since we have a representative form of government, just like we do at the state and the federal government, I think it's very important for the city and the citizens to realize it's everybody's government. So I'm doing that because I want to give back. I want to make sure that we're focused on the right things. We've got a lot of challenges ahead of us as a city. And I want to make sure that we're doing that in the best way possible, being as transparent as possible and addressing the priority issues and then communicating those issues to the citizens. So. A lot of it kind of centers around, I've got, at my age, I've had a lot of experience. I've been fortunate to have three different careers. I spent 20 years as a Marine, um, retired at 1990 as a Master Sergeant. Uh, One of the things people might wonder about, well, how does the military have any effect or any application to city government? And I would say the biggest thing is what I learned throughout the military is that you have to work with people from all facets of the country, whether they're black, brown, or whatever. You have to be able to work with them. You have to be able to get things done through them. One of the things that I learned early on as a Marine is I had to be as good of a leader as I possibly could. And in the Marine Corps, we kind of concentrate on this idea of servant leadership. I'm not just a leader to tell people go do this, go do that, but you are a servant leadership type of person where you are doing things for your people first and not for your benefit. I'll also, after I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to work for a telecom company and did that for about 16 years. Was a senior manager. I had an organization of about 150 people, so still had to work with people from all walks of life. I also had a budget of about $65 million in a capital program, the network infrastructure that we were managing. So I understand budgets. I understand that you have to meet budgets. You have to sustain your equipment with what you've got to work with. And then this last 10 years of my working professionally at getting a paycheck, I'm still saying working, but not just getting a paycheck. I worked in the security industry. Same thing. I worked with a lot of different people. Worked with different clients. I dealt with contract negotiations and the whole plethora of things that center around working with hospitals and other organizations. So I believe those skills kind of suit me, that I can come in a relatively short time be able to get up to speed. With so many jobs in three different careers, I've had opportunities where I've gone in and I had to get ramped up pretty quick. And you still don't have a lot of time to, well, let me go study this, study this. It's you better get up to speed pretty quick and be able to produce. So. Well, I like to categorize that into three main areas. I look at essential services, I look at infrastructure, and I look at what I call the essential framework of the city. In terms of essential services, whether you're a citizen or whether you're a business, everybody wants to be able to work and live in an environment that is safe. And so I believe we need to concentrate on having the best police, the best fire, the best first responders we possibly can. And specifically with regard to police, we want to make sure that we're not only attracting the best, but we're retaining the best. Within regards to infrastructure, that's a complicated subject because it means it takes an awful lot of dollars. And unfortunately now, with everything being at a higher rate inflation-wise, it's even more dollars. So it's easy to say we need to build all the roads and everything else, but it's a lot more complicated than that. We need to focus on it. We need to prioritize that. I liked what I saw where I guess we're getting another contract to have this CPI studies done, this pavement, how they measure the depth and the deterioration of that. I think that's important. So that gives the city council, gives the departments who are working the infrastructure a better idea of where we need to focus our efforts on getting the worst streets built. The framework that I talked about, the essential framework, is I want to make sure that we have a government that is business friendly. Whether it's earned or whether it's true or not, I've heard that we have a perception of it's not being a business friendly community or to come in and work at. And I'm not saying that we get rid of the compliances and the codes and the licensing. We can't do that because those are absolutely necessary. But I believe we can be more flexible. I believe that we want to do the right thing in getting especially local businesses in without having them go over hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. And in some cases that I've talked to, conflicting information from one person to another. So we need to be consistent in our departments that are dealing with new businesses. But we want to make sure we turn that around and have this be an attraction instead of a repulsion in terms of business. shorter answer is absolutely. The little bit longer answer is I'm in favor of bond issues, but I'm not in favor of bundling bond issues, if you will. I think that's not very fair to the citizens. If you give them a number of issues that's rolled into one up or down vote on a ballot, then it puts them in the situation, I like this one, but I don't really care for this. And I'm either going to vote it down because I don't like that, or I'm going to vote it up because I like this, but I don't like that. I really think they need to be broken out, be standalone bond issues. But I'm very much in favor of having bond issues. That's one of the best ways that we can get the capital funds that we need to do improvement. Well, I kind of alluded that earlier with being able to go in and analyze all the streets and the roads in the city. I think that would give the various departments and the council a very good snapshot of where our worst streets are, and to focus those very limited dollars on that. I know we have a dedicated grants person, so I like the idea of that person going out and searching and searching and searching, and looking for those particular grants that we can apply to infrastructure and do that. So that with the bond issues, that would be the way we address it, but prioritize. Not because, hey, we know Miller needs to be worked on or Cheesa needs to be worked on, but in terms of detailed analysis, what is the worst streets? Where do we need to apply the efforts in alleys and sidewalks or whatever first, based on a comprehensive review? Okay. What I've quickly learned in this campaign is apartments is like the third rail of politics here in the city. People don't want to touch it, and I understand that. What I've told people that's asked me this question before is I'm neither pro apartments, I'm not anti apartments. I really believe that we need to look at what developments come in front of the city council. We need to be very methodical in looking at that. Is it something that is going to benefit that part of the town? Is it going to benefit the citizens? And I think we need to make sure that if we're going to approve that, we're not giving so many incentives to an apartment where we're going to be paying more for the sake of them making money. Whether it's apartments or whether it's any other business, they're coming in here for a reason. They're going to come in for a reason to make a profit. And I don't want that profit to be on the backs of the citizens of the city. So I'm okay, and I know this question is going to come up later about incentives, but I'm okay with certain incentives, but I don't want to give away the farm, especially in terms of apartments. When it comes to, should we put a stop on it? You have to kind of look at the market. I believe right now the occupancy rate in our apartments across the city is running anywhere from, however you look at it, 92 to 93, maybe 95% at the highest occupied. So for those who think we've got too many apartments, we don't have a lot of unoccupied apartments right now. And if we continue to grow as a community, we've got to have some place to live, especially those people who come into the city that either can't afford to buy a home, or maybe because of their lifestyle choices, they don't really want a home with all the things that go along with the yards and upkeep and everything like that. So I think we need to keep an open mind. I've lived in apartments. I don't particularly care to live in apartments again. And so I'm kind of on a personal level, I think we've got a lot of apartments in our city right now. And I'm not looking to get on the council, so let's get more apartments. I think we just need to logically look at it. And before I would give an answer to someone how I'm going to vote on apartments, I've got to look at the facts first that's brought in front of the city. So. I feel pretty strongly that we've got a comprehensive plan that we ought to follow. Should we follow it to the exact dotting of the I and T? I'm not saying we should do that, but either we follow the plan or we modify the plan, one or the other. I think by not following the plan and making a developer do something different, I think it sends a mixed message. If you've got a developer coming in and wants to build in accordance with what that zoning is for the comprehensive plan, I'm not really too much in favor of making that developer go through a special use permit process, because they're trying to either dissuade or limit that kind of development. I don't have a problem with special use permits if a developer is coming in and want to develop something that is not zoned for that particular area. Absolutely, they should go through a special use permit process. But my general thoughts on the comprehensive plan, either we need to build to it or we just need to change the plan or modify the plan instead of having it both ways. Like infrastructure, it's a very complex issue. Maybe a little bit more complex in that as a member of we're not a member of the North Texas Municipal Water District, we're a customer. And there's a vast difference between being a customer and a member. As a customer, you don't have a lot of leverage, to get things changed. I believe the city's making some good efforts towards going toward maybe renegotiating at that proper time a little bit better usage rate. If at all possible, I'd love for us to get away from this take or pay mentality, which I think is terribly unfair. If we're allocated X number of billions of dollars or billions of gallons of water, and we don't make that, then we've got to pay for that set amount, which I think is unfair. I'd like to see us eventually get to the point where we have maybe more of a multi-year usage rate as opposed to either a take or pay process. It's complicated. We've got to fight as hard as we can to get the members to agree on a different usage rate for us. But right now, it's pretty hard to do much with it. I do not have any problem with certain incentives to entice businesses like HEB or another business to come in here. But I don't want to see multi-year, you're not going to pay any taxes for 5 years, 10 years or whatever. I think that's a little bit exorbitant. I don't have a problem with incentives, but I just don't want to, again, use that term, I don't want to give away the farm just for the sake of having that business come in. I really believe once Sapphire Bay comes online, I think we will be much more of an attraction for business because they'll see the reality of what that's going to do for Rowlett. And my goal or my vision would be people would be clamoring to come in here and do business. And then we would be in a situation where we'd be a little bit more choosy and we wouldn't have to give so many incentives away. But the short answer is I don't have a problem with incentives as long as they're reasonable and they don't put us further in debt as that company is enjoying all those incentives and then making all the profit. So. I'm absolutely not really too keen on giving developers that come in and build apartment complexes a free ride. I really don't, especially when it gets to the point where we are having to pay additionally for the privilege of them being able to come in there and build a complex, rent out, make their money, and us having to pay the gap, if you will, because we gave away so much. In terms of other just normal business, I don't have a problem with some short-term incentives, but I'm not keen on doing that for multifamily residential. That's a great question since we're approaching tax day. And I would tell the people who are viewing this video, you're probably like me. I have this default mentality that I want to pay as few taxes as possible. Absolutely. And especially given our environment right now where prices are up across the board, record rates of inflation, the last thing I want to do is have to give more money to taxes. But the reality of living in a community is that you do have to have taxes. You have to have some way of funding the essential services, the infrastructure, the city operations, and that's just not free, So unfortunately, we do have rates. I would be in favor of keeping those rates as low as possible, but we have to be pretty mindful of where we're at in the budget process. Even after the budget's set, we have to come back and periodically look at the budget to make sure we're fine in all the various areas, and then make adjustments as necessary. Again, my default mentality is keep taxes low, and where we can reduce, but have a realistic viewpoint that if you want things like water and sewer and all the essentials that you have to operate a community of this size, it takes money. And sometimes that money comes through taxes. So. Okay. Be happy to. I'm a huge supporter of police. I want to make sure that they have the tools that are necessary to do their job. I mean, they're going out there every day, these professional men and women, and putting their lives on the line to keep us safe. We've got issues with our police department, and I'm not saying we've got issues with them not being the professional officers they need to be. We've got a morale issue, and it does stem from some issues that we have between the police department and the municipal court judge. Without going into details, because I don't have all the details, I know there's friction between those two departments, and in some ways that has caused the morale to go low, because I believe in some of the police officers that I've had the privilege of talking to, they don't feel that the city has their back. And so I believe that's one of the priority things that has to be addressed. And I'm not advocating that, oh, we've got to go get rid of the municipal judge. We just have to do a deep dive into that. There's a number of allegations that were made as a result of that. And what I would hope that the city council would have done when they had the opportunity is to just maybe commission an independent investigation and review of all those allegations to see if any of them had merit. If they had no merit, fine. If they had merit, then that gives them something, it gives them a baseline for making whatever appropriate decisions they need to make in terms of fixing that problem. But I believe if we don't fix it, it's not going to go away. I believe there's enough tension, enough angst, if you will, between the police department and the court, that it has to be resolved one way or the other. So. Well, my first reaction is, obviously I want to see better roads. I think everybody wants to see better roads. We want to have the best public safety department that we possibly could have. We want to be a city that attracts business, good business. We want to see jobs staying in the city, as opposed to someone having to get on DART or drive 30 to Dallas for, seems like ever, and spend their money there, or spend their time and their gas getting back and forth. So I think the ideal is, however better self-contained we can be, the better. But I think speaking to a broader thing is, Rowlett is a microcosm of just about everywhere else in the country, and we've got division in our city. And I would like to see us get to the point where we consider ourselves one community, one people, regardless of your culture, regardless of your background, your lifestyle, or whatever, that we come together and we operate as with a common bond, that we're all members of the city. We all have a stake in making sure this city grows the way it should be. I kind of liken it when my first week in Marine Corps boot camp, I had a big burly drill instructor get us all together and tell us, there's no blacks, there's no whites, there's no Asians, there's nothing. You're all green. And what he was driving home is, he was concentrating on who we are, not what we were. And that's stuck with me my whole life. And every job that I've had, I want to concentrate on who the person is, not what the person is. I want to look at, like Martin Luther King Jr. said, look at the content of our character instead of the color of our skin. And I think if we could do that, and if we can have that kind of mentality as a city, maybe back to like it was right after the tornado, where everybody was locking arms and we had a common goal, we had a common purpose. I'd like to see that be the foundation for better growth, better jobs, better businesses, and so forth. So. I think very easily, because as I described earlier in one of the questions, I've had a lot of different jobs. Throughout 20 years in the Marine Corps, I mean, I was moving about every year, year and a half to a new location, sometimes a new job, a new environment. And so I didn't have a lot of luxury of, okay, give me 6 months to get ramped up. I had to hit the street running. So I had to do an awful lot of study. I had to do a lot of reading. I had to talk to a lot of people to make sure I got up to speed real quick on that particular job. Same thing followed me in telecom industry. I worked for MCI. I started out as a project manager. I became a disaster recovery manager. I became a senior manager. And all of those, I couldn't say, hey, let's put everything aside. Let me learn my job first. I had to do it on the job. And so I don't want to diminish the value of people coming onto the council who's been on various boards. That's valuable. I don't have that because one of the reasons is I just haven't been here as long as a lot of the people have. But I like to tell people I got a brain, I can read, I can think, and I can get ramped up pretty quick. So I don't see that as a detriment necessarily because I'm kind of used to that kind of mode of operation anyway. I'll make this very brief. And, like I said, I'm running for city council. I don't have the luxury of have lived in this city for a long time, but one of the things that I believe that's real important in this short campaign is to meet as many people as possible. And I consider that valuable whether I win the election or not, because I'll have made more friends, got to know more people, got to understand what their needs and their wants are. And if I can take that as a member of the council, fine. If I don't get elected, I think I'm better just by knowing an X number of more people than I did before I started this campaign. I wished I knew Whitney better than I do, but here's what I know about Whitney. He's a good man. He's a good family man. He has done some great things for the CERT, the emergency management piece of it. He's spent time on the chamber. So, I mean, I applaud the guy. He's poured himself into the city. He may not agree with this, but when I started to run for place four, I didn't necessarily say, I want to run for place four because I want to beat Whitney. It just so happened that was the place I was going to run for. But I looked at the idea of running more for the city than I was against a person. So I've heard a lot of people talk great things about Whitney. He's a great guy. I think we just probably have some fundamental differences in how we look at things, and that's just it.